I was the Canadian and just waiting for Dave to pause before I say anything.
Yeah, that's why I just barged right in there. Good American that I am.
Thanks a lot, guys. So we have a packed session today. First hour is going to be presentations. We're going to talk about overview, integrations, asset capture, all that good stuff. And then I hope everyone sticks around for the second hour where we can have a Q&A, and we can also go through some instructions and workshop scenarios just like the previous days. So I don't want to assume that everyone, in general, I think that most people know what remote assist is at this point. But just in case, I'm going to ask Sophia to just do a few minutes on a remote assist review and just basically talk about why it's important and a few of the features. Sophia, do we have you on the line here?
Yes, we do.
All right. Unless you want otherwise, I'll control it for you.
Yes, please. That would be great. If you could show the next slide. Awesome. So hi, everyone. I'm Sophia. I'm one of the program managers from the Remote Assist Engineering team, and super happy to be starting this hour by giving you an overview of the benefits of using Remote Assist. And as Dave said, we'll be getting more into the details of the asset capture features and the integration with field service, and then ending with deployment options. So about Remote Assist, so among the many challenges that businesses face today, we realize that one of the biggest is bringing information. Actually, you can go back to the previous slide, is bringing information to employees when and where they need it the most, especially those who are using their hands to do their best work. And that's where mixed reality comes in. Mixed reality overlays digital information in the context of the physical world. And by enabling employees to access information in the real world context of their work, mixed reality enhances their ability to collaborate. And Remote Assist is a mixed reality app available on the HoloLens, as you see in the picture, and also on mobile devices. And we target 3 core scenarios: break fix, remote inspections and audits, and training. So yeah, let's go to the next slide and see how our customers are benefiting from Remote Assist. So one of the big benefits is that customers are able to solve problems in real time. So when technicians encounter an urgent issue that they don't know how to resolve, they want to collaborate with an expert in real time, which is what we call the break fix scenario. However, these experts could be anywhere in the world, and without Remote Assist, the expert might have to spend hours or days traveling to the site to provide support in person. And as you know, this is time consuming, expensive, and especially during our pandemic, this is impossible. So with Remote Assist, the technician can use HoloLens or mobile devices to share their real-time view with remote collaborators who can be anywhere in the world. And these technicians and remote collaborators have a lot of tools to collaborate. For example, the remote collaborator can overlay instructions on top of the technician's physical world using mixed reality annotations, as you see in the picture. And the expert can also bring other critical information into the technician's view, like diagrams and other information. So if you can go next. Slide. So an important aspect of solving problems in real time is quickly connecting with the collaborator who's best suited to help you. So in some cases, the technician might not know the best person to call. If they're using field service, they can, if they have a field service license, they can view the expert assigned to their booking and start the call with them. And again, these capabilities let technicians and remote collaborators solve problems faster together. So next slide. So now I wanted to go more into detail about how Remote Assist enables technicians and remote collaborators to bring critical information into view. And so I have 2 examples here. So with the top one, again, with mixed reality annotations, the technicians and remote collaborators can point out different parts of the technician's environment and provide more detailed instructions rather than having to kind of like verbally describe the instructions. On the bottom view, you can see that they can also share documents with each other to provide more context for the repair. So for example, the technician can share a PDF to explain the steps that they already tried following, and the remote collaborator can share a schematic that explains what the machine should look like when the issue is resolved. And in addition, technicians who use field service might want to view the details that a colleague left on their field service work order. So using Remote Assist and HoloLens, the technician can pull up that work order and see all of those details in a heads-up and hands-free way. And they can even view a Power BI dashboard that's attached to that booking. And Dave will go over some of the other field service integration features later in this presentation. Next, So far we've been talking mostly about break, fix, and repair scenarios, but remote assist is also being used for remote inspections and audits. So for example, an auditor might want to save travel time and cost by remotely assessing the state of an asset. And they also want to create asset records to document the state of the asset over time. And customers also might want to use remote assist for live training. So for example, an expert can use remote assist on HoloLens to demonstrate to multiple colleagues how to perform a specific procedure. And they can do that in a heads up and hands-free way. And some of the features that really support these scenarios are call recording. So remote assist calls can be recorded and saved in stream so that operation managers who are not part of the call real time can reference it later. And also during the call, technicians can take snapshots to capture the state of the asset in real time. And all of these important call artifacts that are generated are able to be saved to a field service work order for future reference. So next slide, Remote Assist is available on HoloLens and iOS and Android tablets and mobile phones, and the capabilities across these platforms is very similar. I would say one of the biggest benefits of using HoloLens, however, is that it lets technicians work in a heads-up and hands-free way. So again, as you can see in these pictures, the technician can keep their heads up and have both hands free to perform the task rather than having one hand occupied to hold the phone. Next slide. And one of the benefits of using Remote Assist on mobile is that mobile devices are more widely available, which enables organizations to get started on Remote Assist more quickly. So on the next slide, we show a feature comparison of the features available on Remote Assist HoloLens versus mobile. The differences are highlighted, and as you can see, we're addressing most of the discrepancies in this wave, and which is very exciting to have this feature parity across these platforms. And I know we have a lot of content to go through, so I will hand it off here, and we can let Drew start talking about asset capture. If you have any questions, maybe add it in the chat and I'll answer them there. Thanks, everyone.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Sophia. Yeah, Sophia brought up a lot of good points. She talked about sharing knowledge. Remote Assist is a really great opportunity to, bring knowledge where it needs to be. Sophia talked about inspection scenario. Makes sense. Yesterday, we just talked about inspections with field service. And, it's a very popular scenario. And I think Drew is going to talk next about the asset capture scenario. And it really makes sense that if you have knowledge sharing and you have inspection scenarios, it really makes sense that asset scenario, again, another area where field service is investing heavily in, it really makes sense that Remote Assist could be used for that scenario as well. So Drew, do we have you on the line?
Yep. Thanks, David. And hi, everyone. Really excited to speak with you guys and introduce you to some of the new things that we are releasing in the next wave. So asset capture, as David was mentioning and Sophia were mentioning, it's a critical piece of our roadmap and our vision. And if you move to the next slide, David, the Remote Assist product vision is to become that indispensable mixed reality tool that enables technician and customer success. And the way we think about that is, up until now, we have enabled customers to allow remote collaboration between technicians and experts. Now is our opportunity to bring all of that data into a centralized location in the customer's CDS tenant so that they can get insights on top of that. They can get advanced analytics on top of that. They can get recommendations and predictive maintenance on top of that, right? So Remote Assist then becomes like a central piece for you to kind of bring all that information in the same place, whether it's from your customers, whether it's from your people operations, whether it's from your product and other operations. And that vision is kind of the linchpin of our strategy as we are launching these new features. So if you go to the next slide, David, these are some of the features we are launching as part of our Wave 2 releases. One of them, the asset capture one, I'm going to go deeper into today. Calls dashboard is giving customers the ability to find insights and analytics on top of their calls, Remote Assist calls that they're making with this product. And the other one is the one-time calls feature, which gives external customers and vendors to be able to join a call and and collaborate with remote assist license holders as well. And you can see that the scenarios that are playing out through this, right? So we talked about the break fix scenario, which has been the bread and butter of remote assist so far, but more and more customers are using remote assist in spatial walkthroughs and survey scenarios. So that goes into your inspection scenario where you're following a checklist and you're clicking through multiple different things and you're checking off and taking pictures and making sure everything is correct. And also in the knowledge and customer insight scenario where you have knowledge articles, you have information that you want to share with your peer group, within your organization, and remote assist is helping with that too. So those three major scenarios gives us a lot of room to kind of bring features to customers and to expand the value proposition available to customers. So if you move to the next slide, I'll go deeper into the asset capture scenario, which is giving the ability to customers to organize their data for their product and operations. And the biggest, principle that we used in here was our ability to integrate with the broader Dynamics product portfolio as well. So when you think about CDS, when you think about field service, when you think about assets, we are basically using everything that has already been used in these organizations, in these companies that are based on these products. So we're using the same asset common solution that field service uses. So now field service is launching a bunch of new features in the asset common solution. Remote assist can also leverage those features. And any changes that you might make in one part of your organization regarding an asset can be available in remote assist as well, and vice versa. So that has been kind of a linchpin of our technical strategy as well. And the way customers are using it is to capture the condition of the assets when they're going through inspections and build upon that. This is the first feature in remote assist that is integrating with CDS and gives us the ability to bring that data into CDS for the customer. So remote assist can be used outside of a call. You no longer have to do things when there's a technician on the other side. It can be asynchronous. You can capture the conditions of an asset, and then an expert can look at it outside of that. And then we're seeing a lot of customers, our public preview customers who have already kind of started using it, use it. And you can think of facilities management who might want to capture office spaces, major hotel chains who are recording hotel inspections, or they're recording construction sites and so on. Lots of manufacturing customers who are inspecting the assets and making sure that they are up to date. And this also gives us an idea of where we can go in the future with all the asset data available in CDS. So the things that we're thinking of, and David will cover that in the future as well, is the ability to bring image recognition and AI and spatial anchors into the product, the ability to have predictive maintenance, fault recommendation, part suggestions, the ability to bring IoT data and combine that with the CDS data that's already there for the asset and give a live view of what the asset is doing right now. So all of those things kind of enable the vision that we were talking about of becoming this tool. Right. Is there a question? I think. All right. So if you want to jump to the next slide, David, we have a quick demo on the HoloLens side. So if you go to the next slide, there's a video that will walk through that. If you can share your audio as well. I don't know if you're sharing that. This has before you share your screen. Actually, I can take over if you want, and I can share that audio. Does that work?
Yeah. Let me try right now, but I actually wasn't able to share audio yesterday, so I'll try right now. But if not, I might pass it over to you. Let's see.
Okay.
You guys will let me know.
Sounds good. I don't think we can hear it.
No audio so far.
No. Okay.
Let me try that.
Yeah. Let me ask you to present, Dhruv. I used to have a setting that said use system audio, but for some reason it's gone.
I see that in my presenter view, so let me try that.
Boy, David, if we only knew who managed the Teams team to figure out why that happened.
Maybe we could have them join the next call.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, let me play this for you.
In this video, we will look at the asset capture capabilities in the HoloLens 2. We will browse and open service-related documentation, view asset records, open existing asset captures, and capture asset photos with spatial markup. From Remote Assist on HoloLens 2, select the Files tab. This tab shows images and PDF files from OneDrive for Business, such as schematics or service manuals. Select a folder to navigate, and then select the file to open it in the environment. This is great when technicians need to access documentation, but need to use their hands while performing the service work. Documents can be placed anywhere in the environment for safe and efficient work. Now select the Assets tab. This shows a list of asset records in Common Data Service, ordered by the last modified date. You can use the paging tool to go to the next page of assets, or use the search bar to search for an asset based on the asset name field. We will search for the HVAC unit and open the asset record. From the asset view, any existing captures will appear here and can be selected for review. For example, if a technician needs to see what an asset looked like the last time it was serviced or inspected. Using the annotation tools, we can highlight defects on the asset or call out a new part we installed, and then use the photo tool to capture photos of the assets with annotations. Photos can be taken with the hand gestures or through the snap voice command. After snapping a photo, a preview will appear for a few moments as the file is saved to CDS. Please keep in mind that any photos taken will be available in the model-driven app. Thank you for watching this video about how to capture asset data in the HoloLens 2 as part of the Dynamics 365 Remote Assist asset.
So I hope people were able to hear the audio.
Yes, it came through fine.
Yeah.
So I think the scenario that we were talking about here is, you have an inspection going on, and a technician goes on site, an inspector goes on site, and they go and check out the various different assets or equipment, and they're not starting a call with someone to get guidance at that point itself. That going through a checklist, and they are putting those things in the asset schema, in the asset entity, and adding it to the asset. Now I'm going to show the other side of it, right? So now I am the expert, and now that Remote Assist is a CDS application, it's a Dynamics application. What you can do is you can go to your favorite home.dynamics.com portal, and you can select the environment where you have the Remote Assist application. And it's a very familiar model-driven app. As was mentioned in the video, you can look through all the assets that you have access to, and you can find that asset that the technician might have marked up or taken a picture of. So this was an HVAC that we had taken a picture of, and then I can go to this Captures tab within that. Again, this is all the same as you would get on field service as well. This is the same asset entity. Now the functions and the capabilities that we are adding might be slightly different, but eventually, the whole point is that it's all going to converge, and you're going to be able to leverage those capabilities across the applications. So now, if I click as an inspector, as an auditor, if I look at that picture later on, and I see, hey, look, somebody had marked something up. This is a different HVAC, but somebody had marked something up, and I see something else. I'm reviewing the picture. I can go in here and look at the picture tool and say, okay, I need to mark something up. There are some controls available for me to mark things up, and I can say, hey, this is something that you need to review. There is a pipe here that seems like it's not connected, and I can just click and save that picture, and which will update the picture so that the next time the technician goes on site and wants to review the same asset, they will see my guidance, or they'll see the annotations I've made on that picture, and they'll know what to do next as well. And this is just the beginning of the story here. So what we are enabling with this model-driven app is the technician and the expert to collaborate asynchronously, so not in a call at the same time, but also giving the organization the ability to track their assets, to capture the asset data. And as part of GA, we're also working on the video feature. Down the line, you can imagine all the other things that I mentioned would come with it, whether it's IoT data or whether it's spatial reconstruction data, and you'd be able to have a real good model, a 3D model of your asset as well. So yeah, this was a demo of what the asset capture feature looks like for the Wave 2 release of Remote Assist. If you have any questions, I'll be sticking around. And
Dhruv, the way that picture that you're viewing in CDS, basically the flow is that picture is tagged to that asset because the frontline worker took a picture of it from their HoloLens, right? From their field of view. Is that the flow?
yeah, and it's on HoloLens or on mobile. You can do both things. So you can do an inspection with the Remote Assist mobile app as well. And you can do asset capture as part of that. And you can take a picture of that. And then the auditor can go and take a look at that later on. So it's attached to that particular asset. So if I was to go back to HVAC, the asset itself, I can again go back into the captures that were done as part of that asset. And I can go through the asset captures.
Awesome. And yeah, just like Dhruv said, I just want to stress that this is exactly the same asset entity that's used by field service. So if you have field service, you can keep and use all your assets, and you can install remote assist, and it's going to add abilities to that asset. But it's also important to keep in mind that let's say you're not even a field service user, you install remote assist and you're getting the CDS and you're getting this asset entity as well. And then let's say you started with remote assist and you added on field service, that scenario could work as well.
Absolutely. Great point, David.
David and Dhruv, I also see a really nice scenario where if you're a technician going to repair one of your own products and a customer has let's say a competitive product, this is a great way to capture that information so that you could bring that in as a non-owned asset or non-structured asset under your organization, but could potentially lead to sales opportunities for replacement and such.
Yep.
Yeah, that's an interesting scenario. We're seeing that more and more with field service where they want to be able to use field service as a sales tool, whether that's giving sales presentations on site, or also, like Sean is saying, marking a competitor's presence on your turf.
That's right. That's awesome, Dhruv. This is really cool stuff.
Yeah, really excited for you guys to try it out. I have to jump off, but I'll be back at 10 for Q&A.
Yeah, so if anyone has any questions about asset capture, please put them in the chat, and then Dhruv's going to join us again in a half hour, and he'll be here to answer those questions. And yeah, we do have one workshop session, one set of instructions later on, so you can get going with asset capture. You can install remote assist in your environment, and you can start playing around with that feature as well. There are certain things that you can do even without a HoloLens, and we can explore that later on. Dhruv, while we do have you for one more minute, you said asset capture is available for HoloLens, and it's going to be available for mobile, or it is available for mobile?
It will be available for mobile on 10/1. That's our GA date for both.
Okay, and last time I checked, asset capture was available for people who had a paid version of remote assist. Is that still the case? It's not going to work necessarily with the trial?
It will work with the trial. We are working on onboarding the trial CDS as well. So you will get capacity with the trial license of remote assist as well.
Okay, and you guys are targeting October for that?
Yes, we are working with a partner team to get onboarded onto that. So that's the target date. That's correct.
Perfect. All right, excellent. I'll go ahead and present. Let's go. Let me grab. One moment, just got to pull this up. Excellent. So I want to take a minute and now that we talked about remote assist and we talked about how remote assist is moving more and more into the asset servicing space, I think that's a good opportunity to talk about the integration with field service. It's really nice that you can use these technologies separately or together, and they really complement each other. So hopefully everyone can see my screen now. And I just want to quickly reiterate how remote assist fits into the field service workflow. So You can imagine that a work order could start in many different ways, but one scenario is either a customer calls and says there's an issue, or an IoT alert from a connected device is saying that there's an issue. From there, that issue is scheduled to the right person via all of our scheduling tools. From there, the technician is going to go on site and take a look at that asset that is causing problems. And then while they're on site, they need to go ahead and resolve that issue. And now there's usually two reasons why a technician, among many reasons, but the two top reasons why technicians may not be able to fix a work order the first time is either they don't have the part or they don't have the knowledge. So if they show up, they start working, they might say, oh, actually I need this part, we need to go and order it, or I don't have it in my truck, or I need to go pick it up. The other thing is they're like, I don't know, I haven't come across this issue before, or I can't really diagnose what the issue is. And I think the remote assist part of that really goes after that scenario, where we don't want lack of knowledge to get into the way of a technician not being able to resolve a work order the first time. So while they're on site, they're viewing their work order on their mobile device, or maybe even their HoloLens if they're lucky. And at some point, they're going to encounter something they haven't seen before. They don't know what to do, or they're unsure of what to do. They can go ahead from the Field Service mobile app. They can deep link to the Remote Assist app, and they can make a call. They can what we like to call it is phone a friend and get the information that they need. So we definitely see this as part of the technician success area of field service, and more importantly, they can make that call in context of a work order. And from there, once the work order is resolved, the case in the work order updated in real time with the remote assist call details. So when we talk about the integration, when we're actually looking at the system, here are the three things that we're really talking about. First, we're talking about on each work order, you're noting who the expert is. So this is telling who the friend that needs to be called is in case an issue arises. Another part of the integration is a deep link from the Field Service mobile app, both Field Service mobile apps, the Power App 1 and the Xamarin-based one, to the Remote Assist app. It's going to automatically open that app. And once the phone call is done, you can choose which work order the phone call relates to. And you can share the call log, the metadata of the call, and it'll actually post shared file links to the files that were shared. So here's an example of what that looks like. So let's go ahead and take a look at that in the system. So let's see. All right. Okay. So like I said, a work order is created and scheduled. And if I look at my field technician here, I can see that my technician, Abraham McCormick, was scheduled 3 work orders for today. And let's quickly take a look at that user. So it's a bookable resource in my system. This bookable resource is a user type resource, which means that they're consuming a Dynamics 365 license. If I go ahead to my admin center and I take a look at that user, that user has a Dynamics 365 customer engagement plan. This is just one example of how they got access to field service. And he has a Dynamics 365 remote assist license as well. And in the background of a remote assist license, this user has access to Teams. So that's first things first. They have the appropriate licenses, and then we created a bookable resource for that user, and we assigned that bookable resource work orders. In this scenario, they were automatically scheduled with resource scheduling optimization. Now, if I take a look at one of these work orders, and I see that this booking is related to this work order. Again, this is a work order just like any other work order. I have my information. In the settings tab, I entered a support contact. This isn't mandatory, but it just, as we'll see in the flow coming up, it just makes things easier. It queues up who the person could call, though they can call anyone. It's all right if this is left blank, but just know that if you want the ability to queue up that call, you're going to want to put a support contact here. Now, this support contact is a bookable resource lookup, and it's looking up to a user, and that user has access to Microsoft Teams, because if this person is considered our support contact in remote assist terms, this is the remote collaborator, and the remote collaborator needs access to, at a minimum, Microsoft Teams. They don't need a remote assist license, but they do need a Teams license. So let me go ahead and, so imagine this is scheduled to my technician, and I'll go ahead and pull this up on the mobile app, and I'll mirror my screen for everyone. All right. So I log into my mobile application, and I'm seeing my work orders that are scheduled. In this case, I'm going to select this one here. And again, I'm going through the work order. I'm going through my service tasks. And at some point, I feel like I need to phone a friend. So I can go ahead and select this more option here, and I can choose remote assist, and it's going to trigger remote assist. And then what it did there was it grabbed the email from this support contact and it queued them up to call. If I want to call this person, I go ahead and hit launch call. If I didn't, I can literally just go back here and I can search for other remote collaborators in my tenant. But in this case, I'll choose that person. I'm going to launch the call, and I have my iPad over here logged into Teams. And here I am. I'll go ahead. Here's my dungeon office, and go ahead and continue to have a call. What I can do is I can enter, if I choose this snapshot here, let's say I had poor service. Oh, actually, it just detected that it had poor network quality. So it's saying rather than do a live feed, share a snapshot. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that. And it's going to take a picture. Oop, maybe the network got better before. It's going to take a picture of what I'm looking at, and then I can go ahead and make markups here as needed. And when I'm done, I'll hit save. And it says that, would you like to save this to my device photo gallery or the call chat? I'm going to go ahead and choose the call chat. And again, just some other features here. I can use the chat icon. I can record this. I'll go ahead and hit record. And this is going to be recorded through Teams. And sometimes you'll see that it says lose tracking. If you hold it still and if you hold it still and you don't really move it, it'll think that it's frozen, and it's going to say that it's losing tracking. So that's just a good practice and a demo tip. So at this point, I can resolve the issue. I can ask questions here, and when I'm done, I can go ahead and hit end call. And it's saying, all right, there was a call log, a call took place, and it's also saying that here's one of the images that were shared during the call. And I'll go ahead and select post. And it's saying, does this relate to a work order or a booking rather? And it's choosing these 3 bookings. And what those are my bookings for today. So if I quickly show you here's the 3 jobs that were scheduled today for this bookable resource. And then those are the same 3 jobs that are showing here. So I'm going to say that this call related to that work order, and I go ahead and select post. Now, it's important that to pull those work orders into this call, you need to have the correct view in your system, which is, I believe the view is like today's bookings. It's a view that's installed with field service out of the box, and you're going to want to make sure not to delete those. Okay. So at this point, then what I could do is I could go back to my work order. Again, this was asked yesterday. There's no deep link back into field service, so I would just really go back into my work order. And it's up to me to choose it, and I'm going to say that it is completed. So we'll say that it's completed. We'll go ahead and save that. Excellent. Okay, if I head back to my system here, this work order has been completed. This booking has been completed, and if I head there, I'll see that the call log, there was a call between Abraham and Edgar Dominguez. It occurred at this time. And there's an additional note that's saying there was a file shared during this call, and it puts it into a SharePoint site. Ooh. I have to request access from this SharePoint site. You just have to make sure that your users have access to the SharePoint site that's related. So in a nutshell, that is the integration with field service. And the only other thing that's worth mentioning is if that work order took place in relationship to an asset, after you, like Drew said, after you install an asset, after you install Remote Assist web application, it's going to add this captures tab to your asset record. And I think when I think of the Remote Assist and field service integration, I basically like to highlight 3 benefits. One is, as is true with all of field service opportunities, you want to improve the first time fix rate. What you want to really show is that lack of knowledge, lack of expertise, not knowing what to do shouldn't be an excuse of why the work order wasn't resolved the first time. You want the ability to phone a friend. And again, like Sophia highlighted, you want to be able to phone a friend anywhere in the world at any time, right? As long as they're working, they should be able to pick up that call and help you troubleshoot. And they're not just helping you troubleshoot with the video call, they're helping you troubleshoot with the video call with mixed reality technology. The other thing is imagine another scenario is imagine I did all the work, but I want to feel like I want verification that I did the work correctly. So jump on a remote assist call, say, hey, here's what I did. Does this look right to you? And then your manager can say, yes, that looks right. And then lastly, because in remote assist, you have the ability to record that call, you can go ahead and fix something. You can record it and you can upload that to stream, and you can use that later on for training scenarios. So then you can train people before they're live in the field. And I think that's just a larger benefit of mixed reality all up, these virtual training scenarios. The other thing is if you have all these work orders and you can see which work orders had a remote assist call tagged to it, then you can basically identify where training opportunities are as well. So you're saying, maybe these work orders that have this work order type, they're the ones that are requiring remote assist calls. So we actually need to focus more on this type of work, and we need to create training programs around there. So there's so many benefits.
Awesome. Yeah, again, if you have questions for Dave, please add them in the chat because we have a lot of exciting content to go over for you. So now that you're hopefully interested in using Remote Assist, what does it take to deploy Remote Assist? So before I talk about the 4 common deployment scenarios, I'm going to share some guiding principles about how deployment is done. And you'll note that I won't be able to go over all of the details in the slide, so I've actually included a YouTube video that we've already created that goes over all the details that you will need to know. So next slide, please. So with group calling becoming available on September 1st, there are more remote assist call types that become available. So previously, you needed to be a remote assist user needed to call a Teams user, but now we enable group calling, which means that multiple remote assist users can be in a call together. So for example, a remote assist mobile to remote assist mobile call is now available. That's one important thing to know. The second thing is that in general, people who want to use remote assist on HoloLens or remote assist on mobile to join a call, they must have a remote assist license, which comes with the three service plans: the remote assist service plan, Teams service plan, and CDS for a remote assist service plan. And the people who want to use the Teams app, either the desktop app or the mobile app, to join the remote assist call, they need to have a Teams license. However, simply having the correct license is not enough to be able to join a call. So to join a call, remote assist users and Teams users must have their respective licenses in the same tenant. And this can be achieved via Teams guesting, and I'll go into that more later. Or if the remote assist user is using HoloLens, another option is for the remote assist and Teams users to be in separate tenants that have set up Teams federation with each other. The thing to note is that Remote Assist is built on top of Teams and leverages many Teams capabilities, like the ones I've already mentioned: guesting, federation, and also Teams anonymous meetings. And customers frequently want to enable people outside of their tenant, for example, vendors or customers, to use Remote Assist. This is one of our most common scenarios, and one that's becoming more and more popular, especially with the pandemic, as customers want to be able to connect to support their customers who are not inside their tenant. And just a note, today, assigning Remote Assist licenses to an out-of-tenant user's email via Azure AD B2B is not available, but is something that is on our roadmap. And in the meantime, there are 2 sub-scenarios within this scenario, and we have different recommendations for them. So for example, the first sub-scenario is that your customer might want to provide a way for their customers to use Remote Assist HoloLens or mobile to call them when they need help. So we're going to call your customer C1 and their customer C2, just to keep it more clear. Or in addition, maybe the C1 wants multiple people at C2 to share the same Remote Assist license to get help. So in this scenario, the C1 could consider accomplishing this by assigning device-based Remote Assist licenses to service accounts and providing those service account credentials to C2 in order for them to use Remote Assist. And this is kind of an interim solution while we build out Azure AD B2B. And so another sub scenario is maybe you don't actually expect the C2 to use remote assist that frequently. So it wouldn't make sense to purchase a license for the C2 and set it up with a service account. So on 10.1, we're enabling C1s with remote assist licenses to send a one-time call link to anybody. And this link would enable that person to download Remote Assist Mobile and join that single call. And then the last thing to note here is that we'll all be focusing on talking about remote assist licenses and Teams licenses. But if you want to leverage certain features like sharing files from OneDrive or saving a call recording to stream, that call participant will need a OneDrive for Business service plan and also a stream service plan. And these service plans are not bundled as part of the remote assist license, but they are available through other licenses, like for example, the O365 E1 license. So now in the interest of time, I'll briefly go over the 4 deployment scenarios. And again, all the details you'll need to know will be in that YouTube video. So let's go to the next slide.
So Sophia, I guess before we go into each scenario, how would you categorize the 4 scenarios? How would you talk about them at a high level?
Yeah, so I think this flowchart might be helpful for answering that. And so this is the flowchart I would use to categorize them. So first you want to ask yourself, hey, do the people who want to use Teams and Remote Assist, or do they already have the licenses they need? So on the left, you'll see, yes, they do. You'll see the little icons with the people and the licenses. The person who wants to use Teams has a Teams license. The person who wants to use Remote Assist has a Remote Assist license. So great. And so what happens next depends on whether those users are in the same tenant. If they are in the same tenant, that's scenario 1. And if they're not in the same tenant, that's scenario 2.
And by the way, the demo that I just showed was scenario 1 because my field service technician and the person that I called on Teams, they were in the same tenant.
Awesome. And so if you go to the next slide, so what happens if the people who want to use Teams and the people who want to use Remote Assist, they don't have the licenses they need? And so then the next question you would ask is, well, the person who is outside of my tenant who doesn't have the license they need, do they need to use a Remote Assist license or do they need to use a Teams license? And so that would be how you think about scenarios 3 and 4. So now I have a couple minutes, so I'm going to go through each of the scenarios and give you an example of them, and then kind of go from there. So again, the first scenario is an example would be, hey, I want first-line workers in my organization to call other experts in the same organization. They're both in the same tenant in my company. And so this scenario, the Teams users and the Remote Assist users already have their respective licenses in the same tenant. And so no configuration is needed. They can just start calling each other right away. So next slide. Scenario 2 is similar in that both the Teams users and the Remote Assist users, they have this licenses that they need, but they're actually in different tenants. So for example, you see in tenant ABC, the experts have Teams in that tenant, but in the external tenants, the first-line workers have Remote Assist licenses in those tenants, and you can see they're not in the same tenant. So an example of this would be there's different business units and that use different tenants. So maybe the expert is in one business unit that is in its own tenant, and the first-line workers are in another business unit in another tenant, and you want them to be able to help each other. And so the next steps here really depend on kind of how you want them to collaborate. So if you want them to participate in calls with each other as opposed to meetings, you would want to set up external access, which is also called federation, or you would want to set up guest access. So at a very high level, how federation works, which you will see on the left side, is you set up federation between the 2 tenants. So you're enabling the entire ABC tenant and the entire X1 tenant to be able to communicate with each other. Whereas guest access, that's a much more granular type of setup. You just want the single expert. You don't want to guest that individual into the Remote Assist user's tenant. So as you can see here, we're guesting that expert 1 into the X1 tenant, or we're guesting expert 2 into the X2 tenant. And so this goes over some pros and cons. And next slide. And I also So, and then the next option is, well, maybe you don't actually need these users to call each other. You actually want them to join the same meeting. And so that's another option for getting people in different tenants to be able to collaborate together. And so meetings are only available on Remote Assist HoloLens today, between Remote Assist HoloLens and Teams Desktop. And so the way you can set this up is kind of based on the Teams anonymous join feature. So in Teams, you can set up a meeting, and if your tenant enables anonymous users to join, you can then send that link to anybody. They don't even need a Teams license. Or they could be a Teams user in a different tenant. So essentially anybody can join that meeting. And Remote Assist meetings leverages the same type of that same kind of capability, where the Remote Assist user would be able to set up a meeting and send that meeting link to anybody, and the Remote Assist user can join the meeting from HoloLens. So that's scenario 2. Now let's go to scenario 3. And so remember now, scenario 3 and 4 is when someone outside your tenant doesn't have the license they need either. And so in scenario 3, the person outside your tenant wants to use Remote Assist, but doesn't have a Remote Assist license. So one option is to deploy service accounts. Sorry, let me go through an example. So one of the examples could be, I want experts in my tenant to provide remote assistance to vendor technicians outside my tenant. Or I want a customer support agent in my tenant to provide remote assistance to a B2B customer who is outside my tenant. And so the options here are to create service accounts and assign a Remote Assist license to that service account and provide those credentials to the people outside your organization who need to use Remote Assist. So yeah, this kind of goes over how you can set up a service account in your tenant. You can just click through this. Yeah, the details are in the video, so I'll go through this pretty quickly. And then next slide. Or you can deploy service accounts instead of in your main tenant, you can deploy service accounts in a separate tenant. And again, we'll go through, this slide goes through all those instructions. So yeah, Dave, you can just click through these. This will all be in the YouTube video. Next. Okay, yeah, you can keep going. Let's go to scenario 4. Okay, go back one slide. So scenario 4, great, this is great. So scenario 4 is when the person who is outside your tenant, they actually want to use Teams and they don't have a Teams license, or they also don't want to deploy a Teams license. So an example would be, I want technicians in my company to use Remote Assist to get help from OEMs who are outside my tenant and don't have Teams. And so your options here again are setting up guest access for those Teams users outside of your tenant. Or if you want your technicians to use Remote Assist on HoloLens, you can have them set up a meeting and enable the OEM to join the meeting. So that was a very quick overview of the 4 scenarios. And again, the third scenario is a really popular one where you want to have someone outside your tenant use Remote Assist. And one of the features we're delivering to simplify that experience is the one-time call experience, where someone with a Remote Assist license can create a call link, share it with anybody, and enable that person to download Remote Assist Mobile and join the Remote Assist call without a Remote Assist license. But they can only join that one call. They cannot, once that call is over, they wouldn't be able to join that call using the app. So yes, I can paste the link here. It will include the information you need to know. Yeah, and please feel free to ask questions. It's already at 10.
Yeah, here's kind of how I view the deployment scenarios. And I think of it as like deployment scenarios for dummies. As long as the person doing the work has a Remote Assist license, and as long as the remote collaborator has a Teams license, and as long as you're not trying to circumnavigate licenses, you're probably going to be able to connect those two people. And you're pretty much going to be able to connect. As long as you're willing to pay for the licenses, you're going to be able to get in touch with who you need to get in touch with. Is that fair, Sophia?
Yes.
All right, well, we're at the top of the hour. I think that we should go ahead and take a 5-minute break because I think there's been a lot of information. And when we get back, let's go to roadmap and investment areas, Q&A, and let's see if we can do some workshop scenarios. So yeah, let's come back in 5 minutes, everyone. Cue the music.
You really want music?
I assume you have an instrument there you can play, Sean, right?
I got Spotify. I could play a lot of things there. Some smooth jazz or something.
Sean, you're the John Baptiste of this, or you're the Roots.
There you go. Let's see.
Hey, Dave. Naveen here.
Hey, Naveen.
Hey, great session. Quick, I did ask a question about that posting the information back to the work order. Any reason why it's going back to a SharePoint instead of an attachment on Dynamics? Because we do now have the kind of the file capacity model, right? So I'm just curious. Does that make sense?
I guess, that's how it was designed. I guess my question is, I feel like shared is always better. Like I hate using hard, the static files. I always love to share. So I guess I'm wondering, why would you want a non-shared file?
No, your point, but to the end where it's coming back to the work order, so the context is the work order. So that's what I was kind of curious on those lines, because you're posting it back to the work order, right? So yeah, that's why.
So I guess
anyway, you have a point there, but I was just curious to know.
Yeah,
but it would be accessible via the Documents tab on that work order, right?
Let's see.
So the link is in the timeline of the work order, but I'm with Naveen. The story, like the integration story, is all over the place. Some of the files are going to Microsoft Stream, like the actual video. Then the actual booking attachments are going to SharePoint, and then they're put in the timeline of the work order. And even those links are not clickable, so you have to copy and paste it into browser to get to those files. So can we have all of them in one place?
So I can maybe jump in there. Sorry, folks, I just got back. So I think you're talking about the scenario where in Remote Assist you take a snapshot and that file is attached to a work order afterwards.
And also the record log, as well as like the actual interaction between the remote collaborator and the technician. So we're talking about multiple different artifacts, right? The screenshots, the video, the links, and everything else that gets attached to it.
Absolutely. So I think I'll give a little bit of a background and the history into that, right? So Remote Assist as a product has been enabling those features, the ability to get, your call logs, the ability to get your snapshots, all of that has been available as in OneDrive for a while. So yes, going forward, it's on our roadmap to kind of align that storage story. The challenge is there are some limitations on CDS capacity, on the ability to play some video files. And those features CDS is also bringing in on their roadmap. So our goal is going forward, yes, all of that is available in the organization's CDS and it's easily shared. It gives you the sharing controls that today are not available in CDS. For example, on OneDrive, you can share it with users even external to your organization very easily, versus on CDS, that's much harder. So if you don't have a CDS license, you won't be able to access some of those assets. So those are some of the reasons where we don't want to disable the previous functionality of that's kind of already available as a technician, because in remote assist scenarios as well, a lot of times you can think of the collaboration happening across companies, across different vendors, across different partners who are not in the same organization. It becomes tricky to share those across if you don't have that. But yes, I mean, as CDS adds those features and we are integrating, as I discussed in the our vision for the product, all of that would be available in the organization CDS that they can externally share as well.
On the point that it's a little bit all over the place, I think that's fair. Drew, I think if we're giving a shared link on the work order to the files, I'm wondering if you guys have planned to to put the link to the stream recording as well.
Yeah, the link to the stream recording, David, the problem is that it's actually linked to the stream workspace of the shared collaborator. So that institutional memory that needs to be created here of having all video calls and archived and available for everyone to review is not there, or I'm missing something.
Yeah, and the vision is eventually like all of this could be done in the CRM, the CDS application itself, right? The model-driven application itself. Like you would be able to play the video in the model-driven application. Today, CDS is, I mean, we're working with the CDS team on creating a multimedia file data type, which would enable you to play those video recordings in there. So that is again like platform functionality that the first-party applications are working together to kind of build out.